Thanks for this opportunity.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
I know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We've
Thanks
got a
for
great
being here.
theme tonight. Serviced.
Yeah.
We're going to be telling stories about jobs we do in service of others.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever done a job like that, Tori?
Well, I mean, I used to be a teacher. Ew. Thanks. That was service of high school students. Gross. If you want to hear about that, I will be telling it at Pechacucha on Thursday. So you can hear how I left that one. One time I did a madrigal dinner, which I sang, and then I quit. Yeah.
Okay.
What about you?
What is a madrigal dinner?
I sang at in waited tables. Oh, I worked at Starbucks for like 5 seconds. What about you?
Sorry, that didn't work out.
Yeah.
It's in some ways it's been a life of service.
Oh yeah, you're married or what?
Yeah, I got that. I've waited tables.
Ew.
I've worked at a bed and breakfast.
Hot.
I teach college students.
Ew.
Ew. They're the future.
Yeah. Wait tables. I've seen you at a restaurant.
It doesn't go well. I moved on.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're teaching college. That's probably okay.
It's the future.
I was kidding. You're probably great. Give it up for Patrick. Yeah. Let's see. You want to get into it or no?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. The first storyteller is Vanessa Danielle Cisneros. Vanessa's going to share a story about the need for boundaries when considering work-life balance.
Great. Put your hands together for Vanessa Danielle Cisneros.
As a student, I often spent a lot of my time in the principal's office. I spoke nonstop, elementary, middle school, high school, you name it. I would like to consider myself the original yapper before it was a term. And I got the nickname in kindergarten Vanessa la Necia, which means foolish. And my senior personality was the class clown. So I've come a long way, and I feel 6 years now. Being a teacher, I am getting my payback. It has been a lot of Vanessas with bright minds, but a lot of Vanessas with big mouths. It has been a journey. They say that your first year of teaching is an experience, but I feel like every year is a first for everything. The first year that you get to decorate your own classroom, the first year that you have a challenging student with an even more challenging parent during that time, the first year that you have to teach from your home. There's a lot of firsts out there. Setting boundaries was one of the first things that I had to learn, in that I was raised in a household with 2 teachers. Both of my parents are teachers as well. And a lot of my time was spent taken away because they'd be doing lesson plans, they'd be grading papers. That's how I got my allowance. We loved free child labor. And I told myself, if this was ever me, if I was ever in their position, it was something that I would not do. And that's a boundary that I've stuck with. But it's really hard when you have amazing students and you want to see them do amazing things, and setting those boundaries and making those parent connections. Sharing my phone number was the first boundary I had to set. I was given a phone number to a student, given a phone number to a parent whose student was having issues. And it was taken a little to the extreme, having dinner with my family and getting messages. Why is my child missing this? 7 p.m. And I'm just trying to have some dinner, trying to plan a vacation. So that was one of the first for me where I said, you know what? No. Doing lesson plans. There's never enough time in the day to do everything that you want. So that is something that I make sure is done as soon as I try to get to work. But some of us know that sometimes it might not always get done on time. It has been a crazy 6 years of students and amazing highs and lows. Again, the first for everything, I always think of my students and that first time and place that I get to see my roster and all of these names and knowing that I'm going to be spending the next 183, 187 days with these amazing individuals. And not some amazing individuals, but they don't need to know that. Aside from teaching, we have so many other hats because teaching's not enough. We want to coach. They want us to coach. They want us to sponsor. They want us to do all of that. And that has been such a joy. I recently sponsored our coaching golf when the only experience I have is Top Golf. But it is so amazing and what an opportunity because tomorrow I get to take one of my students to the district championships. There are so many success stories, so many small victories, so many things that these students have. I always get from my non-teacher friends and family members. They're like, oh, do you ever threaten the kids and that you'll call home? These kids have so many other things to worry about, and that's life itself. So I always like to think about that. And I always think about that Vanessa from back then that was sitting in the same position that those kids were in too. I always aside from starting that roster, as a teacher, we know sometimes we get a new student in the middle of the year. Sometimes we get a student in the middle of a testing day and you're five court lessons in and they're, having to catch them up because you don't know where they began, you don't know where they ended. But I always think about the first impression when I get a new student and how important it is for me to make their first day, whether they're sitting in my class for 45 minutes or for 90 minutes, to have a good experience. I often think about this one student, which was this year. It was during Valentine's Day. She came in very quiet, like most of them are, but over time, you know that they're not so quiet. And Valentine's Day was coming up. And of course, although it wasn't in the curriculum, I said we could watch a movie and that they could bring their snacks. And she overheard me tell another student what my favorite snack was, because we were talking about snacks. And on Valentine's Day, that student who had only been sitting in my class for 2 weeks, who did not speak, who I see in the hallways, say hi to her, hey, Alexa, how's it going? She was the only student that brought me a Valentine's Day gift that day because of a conversation that she overheard with another student. And again, it's those small victories, small connections that we make. There are times when there are not so great connections, when you struggle with that one student, when you are not sure what's wrong. I always thought when I started teaching that seeing kids with their heads down, oh, I'm too boring, oh, they're not engaged. But over time, you understand once you get to know your students, no, it's because they didn't get any sleep because they were having to look over their younger sibling all night and they didn't get any sleep the night prior. You learn that they have so many other worries. You would think that the only job they have is to be a student, but they have so much more than that. So I try to be mindful in that and knowing, hey, it's not because I'm boring, or maybe I am. I teach RLA, who knows? Maybe it's that's going on. But from elementary to middle school, I have been able to enjoy what I do. Dimming the light is something that one of my first teacher friends told me, don't let them dim your light. There were times when I would be very discouraged, very insecure about what I was teaching, what I was doing at times, but it has been a tremendous 6 years of doing that. I share these stories with you so you can understand from a teacher perspective as well. It is something that I share with my friends. It is something that I share with my family. And again, I hope you all enjoyed me speaking briefly on this. Thank you.
Dude, have you ever given your number out to your students?
Yes. And in fact, one time I tell them it's my cell phone because I work for the University of Texas system and they took our phones away. But we have a cell phone, and I gave them my cell phone, and somebody texted me to say, "I saw you on Worth Repeating last week." And but man, boundaries.
Yeah. That's what the block button's for.
But I'm actually friends with my elementary school teachers on Facebook now, which is a whole nother
Ew.
boundary disrupting. I wish I could go back.
All I remember from my elementary school teachers is them smoking and going like, "This is our time." It's like, go over there, Victoria. So rude.
Public school.
All right.
All right, our next storyteller is Rose Rivers. Rose is going to share a story about her louder-than-life journey in a very quiet place.
Please welcome to the stage Rose Rivers.
When I was a child, I had this book, and it was called School Days. I remember for each grade, I would write down my interests, my hobbies, new friends I made, my insecurities. I'm just kidding. Maybe I did write that. But I remember the last question, it always asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like my occupation. So I would always write the same thing, artist. And I would spell it Artest. I wasn't the greatest speller. I loved to read, but I didn't read well. But that was okay. I never gave up. I had all the goosebumps, right? I had all that. I loved it. I never dreamt. Well, I'm honored to be here in front of you to tell you the story of how I became a librarian. Forgot to mention that. I never dreamt my dream job was going to be a librarian because I didn't think I could be a librarian. I never saw librarians that looked like me. I didn't even think it was an option. And so when I was 19, I remember I got hired as a library aide, AKA I shelved books, right? And I was so excited. I was 19, and it was my last year of being a teenager. And so I was straight edge all through high school. If anybody, if you're not familiar, I didn't drink, I didn't do drugs, and I wasn't promiscuous, AKA I wasn't a slut. And so quickly, well, it started quickly where I had a hot beer at the old silos where Blue Star is. If you know, it's desert and an old couch, and you would party there. That was my first drink, and I got hooked. I was introduced to my favorite movie, and probably one of the reasons why I became a librarian, starring Parker Posey. It's called Party Girl film. If you haven't seen it, I challenge you to watch it, because this week is National Library Week. So, okay, back to I got some time. Okay, so I would like a falafel with hot sauce, a side of baba ganoush, and a seltzer, please. That's from Party Girl. And so I was like Mary, the main character. She drank, she loved to have fun. She was a flirt. She lied. And I felt like I could relate. And I was like, I'm a party girl too. Slowly my values changed. And so what my focus was getting high and blacking out. This is not supposed to be a comedy show. And so, okay, back to the story. I lost my job at the San Antonio Public Library because of, my addictions, my fears. And so when I was let go, I had the greatest idea. to seek revenge. I was going to go back to school and get my master's in library science, and they were going to be forced to hire me back. That was the plan. I was never hired back. But in 2016, I made my way into the academic field, became an academic librarian with no experience, but a lot of fear. I didn't think I could do the job well. And there were a lot of misconceptions of what librarians look like. And I didn't have the stereotypical librarian look. And so when students would ask, can I speak to a librarian? It started to feel a certain way, like I really wasn't good enough. I couldn't do this job. So what I did was I reached out to mentors to help me so I can get better in the speech department. I talked to faculty there. I would observe seasonal librarians because I wanted to do the job well for my students. Recently, I took a little break from work because burnout is real. And I heard there were lots of students asking about me. And thank you. I had no idea. I had a student come in and he said, they told me to come back in a month. So I did, and you still weren't here. So he came back 3 times. And because of that, I know that I am being of service in my job is to connect. And that's, for me, that's the deepest thing, is connecting with another human on, I'm not on a pedestal. And I make sure that they do know that. But I enjoy my job. And like I said, I challenge you to watch Party Girl for National Library Week.
That was great.
That was great. Have you seen Party Girl?
I haven't.
You have? Well,
No.
you've been challenged.
Put it on the list. Yeah.
Yeah. Not the clap for the what was the clap for the
Addiction.
not slut thing, the slut shamer in the back? They're like, yeah, that was too hard. Whoever was like,
Yeah.
just want to say,
shaming.
all sluts matter. All right. We're having fun.
Are we?
Yeah, we
Okay.
are.
Yeah.
We're having fun. All right. Our next storyteller is Sandra Velarde. Sandra shares a story about a job she needed and how it shaped a period of her life she'll never forget.
All right. Put your hands together for Sandra Velarde.
There I stood, staring at this bouffant hairdo straight out of the 50s, sitting atop this 90-year-old wrinkled up, puckered up face with heavily penciled eyebrows and way too much blush. As this woman looked over and noticed my daughters sitting a few booths from her. And she uttered these 5 words to me. Bless their poor little hearts. Those words sat heavy on my chest because I knew I was a statistic. It was 1992. I was 22 years old. I had just left a marriage of 5 years, an abusive marriage of 5 years. Now, my decision to leave the marriage did not sit well with many in my family. They're all great people, mind you. It's just that the small border town where I'm from is so heavily steeped in its traditional and cultural mores. Nonetheless, there I was. I had just landed my first official job as a full-fledged adult, and I was now a waitress at the Henny Penny restaurant. I think that that restaurant appealed to me because of its building. So I'll backtrack a little and say this restaurant was a tiny diner in this tiny rural town, border town where I'm from. This town had one traffic light, one grocery store, one Texaco gas station, but it did have 2 restaurants to choose from. And I chose the nicer restaurant on the nicer side of the railroad tracks. So I think this appealed to me because of its building and just the aesthetic. It had a whitewashed cinder block exterior with a dark red A-frame roof, and it stood in such stark contrast to the drab, gray, and beige that were outside of the desert and the highway that I'd grown up around. It felt like a fresh, clean start for me. And I was really, really excited about this new chapter of my life. But I was also really naive. Unfortunately, in a small town, you can also kind of be sheltered from the world. And I learned really quickly that the outside world could be just as harsh as the world inside your home. I learned this right upon arriving. My first day on the job, I was almost giddy about joining this all-female team of waitresses at the Henny Penny. They're called servers now, but back then we were called waitresses. This was a long time ago. I expected solidarity, maybe even friendship, but there was none. I learned that my coworkers were rough. They were mean and conniving, and they sabotaged my work at every turn. They did this at the outset by getting dibs on all their favorite tables and assigning to me all the undesirable tables, which is how I ended up with a rude bouffant. Another challenging table, or customer, I should say, was part of the after-church crowd. She'd come in with her family, and she was nicely dressed with well-coiffed hair, wearing fashionable eyeglasses, and just the right amount of makeup on her face. She looked really nice, but she complained about everything, from the amount of lettuce in her hamburger to the amount of cheese on her salad. One day, she made me bring her iced tea 4 times. The first time, way too much ice. The second time, not enough ice. The third time, still not enough ice. And the fourth time, finally, with a heavy and audible sigh, she finally accepted it. With every glass of iced tea, she berated me like a child in the middle of the diner. Every day that I was there, I encountered this pettiness and this negativity from many of my customers. It's like they were taking out their life frustrations on us. I thought, wait, I'm juggling working 15 hours at the community college 45 miles away, single motherhood now, a difficult estranged husband, and his difficult children, and you're complaining about iced tea? Come on. It was depleting. every day I felt my hope, my happiness, my confidence being eroded and blown away, much like the sand dunes that were outside for miles and miles and miles. As I look back on my time there at the Henny Penny, by the way, my coworkers finally succeeded in getting me fired. Those conniving bitches. I thought about calling them out tonight by name, but it wouldn't matter because I'm certain none of them know what TPR is. I'm pretty sure they are still back there, still waiting tables, and here I am, standing before you all, doing my storytelling debut. But looking back at my time there, I learned to do hard things at the Henny Penny. So when life issued its challenges, and it has, and it does, I tackle them head on. I choose to focus on the positive of that experience. I tackle shit, and I know I can overcome. So thank you, Henny Penny, for helping to make me who I am today. For helping to get me where I am today. And thank all of you for being here tonight and buying a ticket and listening to my story. Good night.
One more time for Sandra. It's so funny when she was telling me, I was like, you should call them out.
Say their names.
First and last names and addresses. No? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that what kind of customer you are? Just kidding.
No. But it did remind me when I used to wait tables, people would ask for iced coffee, and I would say, "I'm sorry, we don't have iced coffee."
Yeah.
And then they would say, "But you have ice, right?
Yeah.
You have coffee." And I'm like, "Yeah, but we don't have iced coffee." And I just walk away because it was very annoying to make.
Yeah. Sounds like they
Relate
were
to the ice problem.
revolutionary.
Yeah. This was the 90s. It was different. Yeah.
Well, they were onto something.
Yeah.
Sounds like you could have invented Starbucks. Just listen to your customer, maybe. All right.
I'm an anthropologist now.
All right. Well,
It all worked out.
Patrick's very close-minded.
Well, our next storyteller is Michelle Byrne. Michelle is going to share a story about a summer job that left her hanging.
Please put your hands together for Michelle Byrne.
So I'm walking through the student union and I see this sign that says Dude Ranch Summer Jobs. And I think that sounds amazing. So it's my end of my first year of college and I am miserable. It's the 1980s, so it's the greed is good 80s. It's material girls 80s. And I am majoring in creative writing and linguistics. And everybody's asking me, what are you going to do with that? And how are you going to make any money? And everybody else has a plan for a job title and a dollar figure, and I do not. And so I don't fit in, and I'm very alone, and I haven't made any friends. So a job at a dude ranch in Colorado far away sounds like a great idea. It also sounds better than the job that I currently had, which was at the 1 Hour Moto Photo, processing other people's vacation pictures. So, and maybe there would be people there who were kind of like me, who just wanted to try something new and do something different. So I apply for a job as a cabin maid and I get it. And it's very different work than the moto photo. So I have to get up early and have breakfast at 6 before the guests come down at 7 o'clock. And while they're coming down, I have to hike up the mountain with my bucket full of cleaning supplies like Pine Sol and Mr. Clean and my broom and mop in the other hand. And I get to cleaning and it's, making beds and cleaning the bathrooms and throwing away empty beer cans and empty gin bottles. And then I have to hike all that back down and then hike up to the next cabin. And after about 4 or 5 of those, I'm done. And I love it. I love the work because it's physical and I'm outside sometimes. And I also love my coworkers. We've become great friends and we're having a good time. So after when I've got the afternoons free, and Patty, who's one of the wranglers, she'll let me know if there's a horse available and I can join up for the trail ride. Or I'll wait for Britta to get off lunch and we'll go for a hike. And then after dinner, a lot of us would get together and we'd go to our favorite spot and start a campfire and we'd play Steve Miller all night long. And we'd have this dome of stars above us. And I would look up and I would think, this is so much better than Moto Photo. And so I decide I'm going to celebrate this freedom and this joy that I have. On 4th of July, I'm going to go hike Monkey Face. Monkey Face was a big mountain about 1.5 miles away, and it had a boulder on the front that looked like a gorilla face. And so I put a canteen in my backpack and a camera, which is 2 things I took everywhere that summer. And I head out immediately, breaking the 2 rules of hiking. I didn't invite anybody to go with me, and I didn't tell anybody where I was going. I just started walking. So, I follow the road to the trail. I see the trail markers. I see the trailhead. I start going up. The beginning of the trail is nice and easy. It's wide, well-traveled. It's a pretty steep ascent, so automatically I'm seeing the valley getting deeper quickly, and I can see the Caneos River snaking through. And I'm so entranced by this beauty that I'm not paying attention to how treacherous the trail is becoming. So, I come across a big rock and I have to climb over the rock, but I can see the trail on the other side, so I catch it. And every time this happens, the rocks are getting bigger and bigger, right? And then I come across one and I'm kind of going across it, right, like this. And I'm looking for where it ends in the trail on the other side. And I'm not finding it. And then I realize that I am stranded, stuck, cheek to cheek with Monkey Face. And I'm panicking, right? Like, I don't know how to get out of this. I can't move up. I can't move down. So I think, okay, just listen for voices to help. And all I can hear is my heart beating and the sound of my breath against the rock. And I think, shit, I have to just get it together. I just have to find my way down. So I just very slowly start moving. 1, and then another. If you saw me from a distance, you wouldn't know that I was moving. It's so slow and gradual. But I'm making my way down until my foot hits the big flat boulder. And I realize I'm safe. I drop to my butt. I'm just grateful to be down. And I scooch to the edge of the boulder. I'm not ready to stand up yet. And I see the trail. I thought, okay, I'm safe. So I make my way back to the trail. And I make my way back to the road. And I find my way. I'm walking back to the Dude Ranch. And I hear a car coming. And I look behind, and it's Gage and Kelly in Gage's Jeep. And they pull over. We're all going back to the lodge. You want to ride? Sure. So I hop in the back. And I want to tell them what just happened, but I don't have the words. I don't know how to process this. I'm thinking that was really stupid and dangerous, but I'm feeling like that was amazing. Like, that was awesome. I don't know what I just did, but I did it, right? And so, and here I am now in this car with Gage and Kelly, and we're riding back to this job at a Dude Ranch. And I'm feeling great, and this summer has been great. And I've got about 5 weeks left in the job. And when I get back to school, one of the first things I do is I take all of my film to the 1-hour Moto Photo. And I get it developed, and I have these pictures hanging above my desk in my apartment that year to remind me that I'm not alone, and that it's okay to not have a plan. I can figure it out one step at a time.
One more time for Michelle.
You ever been to a Dude Ranch?
Have I ever been to a dude ranch? No. I was going to say, I'm brown. No.
Me neither. No.
Sorry. No, I haven't. You? I'm assuming.
No.
Okay.
I just hear that story and I'm thankful that we're no longer in the
I do
greatest
like-
good 80s.
Yeah. I've been like, we would go like
Terrible.
play in the monte. I don't know. Like, yeah.
It's basically the same.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
My granddaddy would be like, yeah, catch that snake, mija, or whatever. Yeah.
Our next storyteller is Jade Ybarra. Jade's going to tell a story about a tough decision that would shape her career in important ways.
Please help me in welcoming Jade Ybarra.
So, my whole family is military, and it made sense that at some point in my life, I would be military too. When I found myself on the edge of the West Texas desert for training, and I was bored to tears or stressed to tears, I tried to remind myself that I chose this for some reason. In West Texas, there's nothing to do. In the Army, there's less to do. You exercise, you go to class, you smoke a cigarette, get yelled at, go to Dairy Queen, repeat. Every day blends one into the other, but one weekend, I got some time to myself. And my ex floated into town. And then he floated out again. And I'm a responsible adult, so I took a plan B and I didn't think about it again. And then a few weeks go by, and I have no symptoms. But the way that animals can sense a natural disaster, I knew something was wrong. So me and my roommate, two delusional friends, run to CVS and we say, cool, we're going to take this test and then we're going to go to Dairy Queen and it's going to be fine. I'm alone under the fluorescent lights and I'm like, this is chill. This is okay. And then there's a blue plus sign staring at me. And we're in a staring contest and I blink first and then my roommate comes in and she's like, it's negative, right? And I don't say anything. I just hold the test out. And she looks at it and we look at each other and I say, can we still go to Dairy Queen? And we lie to each other and we say, it's probably a false positive. You're so stressed out. I'm like, you're so right. It is. Almost in defiance, my body says, okay. And as weeks pass, I hope no one notices that I'm a middle of the pack runner and I'm solidly in last place now. And I'm dry heaving in the bushes because my classmates think that Axe body spray and deodorant are the same thing. And the cafeteria is serving shrimp again in the desert. I don't know where you got it. And I hope that no one notices that I can't take my top off in 100+ degree weather because I can't button the top of my pants anymore. Through all of this, through the haze of Excel spreadsheets and death by PowerPoint and class and gym and everything else, I finally passed the classroom portion. And I'm like, cool, I can relax a little bit. But I know that I still have the field coming up, which is where you do the culmination of everything you've learned in class, but also camping. So I'm stressed out. I don't know what to expect. The night before we're set to leave, we're packing. And my platoon leader stops me. And he says, Ybarra, I need you to stay back for a little bit. Oh, shit. And he's like, he had these bright blue eyes that looked right through me. And he said, Ybarra, I want you to know that I know. And I played dumb. But then he asked me the question that I was not expecting at all, which was, are you okay? I've been better, but okay. And he's like, can you do this? And the truth is that I don't know, but we're going to find out. So the next day, it's 5 a.m. The heat is already ramping up. I've got an armor plate vest, digging into my uterus. I've got a 40-pound, comically large rucksack. I've got a helmet on. I've got a weapon on. And it sounds really cool and tactical, but the truth is that I look like a Ninja Turtle and, and I'm upset. And then we set off into the darkness. And we're running for some reason, and it feels like you're sprinting in a dream where I just cannot move fast enough. And I'm like throwing up these wordless prayers to God. Please don't let me step on a rattlesnake. Please don't let me get a thorn through the bottom of my boot, through a foot, because I'd seen it happen, and it's gross, and it's painful. Please, God, don't let me fall backward on my rucksack and get stuck on my back like a June bug. But I don't. And finally, we make it to the end. The sun is rising, and we've hit our objective point, which is just our camp. And I look over. We're all covered in sweat, and my squad leader is hunched over a cactus, puking his guts out. And I should be concerned, but all I can think of is, thank God it's not just me. And we spend the next few days out there, maybe 20 MREs later. We're heading back. It's black flag weather, so it's too hot officially to train. We're not wearing our gear. We're just marching back, and everybody's got black spots in their vision. We're having to dunk our arms every mile in ice water to prevent heat stroke. But then, all of a sudden, I'm done. And I'd like to say that I was really hype and really proud of myself, but the truth is that I was a little bit more concerned about other things, and all I wanted to do at this point was just get home. Okay, cool. I've accomplished this, and that's great, but I have other things to worry about. So I finally get home and I schedule my appointment to confirm that there was really a pregnancy, but 2 weeks later, the same way that you just know things are not going well, I went to the ER and I waited 6 hours for them to tell me what I already knew, which is that I had been pregnant, I was right, but that I had also lost it. And they all told me this in the same breath. And I never regretted my decision to stay. I always felt that that was the only choice. There was nothing without that. That was what I came for. But I went back and forth wondering if I could have done something different, until the doctor said it wouldn't have mattered what you did. It was always going to happen. You were just, and I quote, unlucky. And I felt unlucky for a while, but I realized that my choice was mine and no one else's. And under pressure, you make a decision and then you live out that decision for better or worse. And it brought me here. So thank you for listening. I appreciate you.
One more time for Jade. I love that story. During rehearsal, Mac, who is a service person, Jade was like, I made that decision for me. And, Mac, who's a service person, looked up and he was like, no, you made that for your platoon. And I'm a big Band of Brothers nerd. And I was like, hell yeah, brother. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. You should see Band of Brothers. I watch it all the time. 'Cause I'm a nerd. Anyway, the end. All right. Okay, we're going. Our next storyteller is Nico Garza. Nico's going to share a story about 2 different kitchens with a couple of different tips.
All right, let's welcome Nico Garza.
These guys are great, by the way. They're legends. I look up to them. Wow, there's a lot of you out here, and I'm not really prepared. Pretty behind. That's what a bad chef would say during a busy night, because he's just oblivious to the situation that he's getting himself into. Obliviousness is kind of the theme of this whole stories I gotta tell. The first one starts at a coffee shop I worked at. They were pretty cool. It's a university coffee shop by UTSA. And if you've never worked in coffee before, it's your main job is just be cool. And that's kind of what we were doing this Friday. It was a slow start. Trying to pick some music out. And, I was really into some psychedelic rock at this time. Some real fuzzy, grungy guitar music. It's also getting into Sade and some sexy music. I'm glad I did not play this sexy music for what was about to happen. Because, it would have made the thing a lot more uncomfortable for us. I was making these drinks, taking some orders. Wasn't very busy, like I mentioned. And we looked to the table right in front of the espresso machine. And we noticed this probably football player. I don't know what he was going to the university for. He was studying his Bible, which is why I assume he was an athlete of the university. This man had his the head of his penis sticking out of his shorts. And I really didn't know what to do. I was the younger of the two on the staff, making these drinks and pouring these beautiful crafted lattes. And I was the one that was forced to, tell him. At the time, I was also, into the psychedelic rock. I was also into abstract expressionism. So I drew a picture in the style of Willem de Kooning. No, I actually wrote him a note saying, hey, you're having a wardrobe malfunction. Like you should really take care of this. And he did. I didn't see his balls. But he had bigger balls than mine because he went to the restroom and came back and continued to study his Bible, which, again, big balls. We continued our day, and it was starting to get a little busier. A line started to form, and tickets started flowing. I had to make a choice because his penis popped back out of his shorts. I had to make a choice to either make these people their drinks, and as a hospitalitarian, I really wanted to focus on the people in line, but I also didn't want them to have to see somebody's penis. So I went around and I stood in front of the table and I looked at him. I was like, how do you not feel that? Because if we were playing our Sade or our Tame Impala, it would be loud. And it was also a pretty cold place. And that's why I asked, like, how do you not feel this? And again, he was very embarrassed. And I fell for him. But this time he didn't go to the restroom. He fixed it right in front of me, which I think was a little weird. He ended up, leaving us a nice tip. As well as dropping a 20 for us, which is like probably 5 lattes, I think. Man, that's an example of somebody being so oblivious, like as a patron. I have seen so many, and I have been an oblivious person in the kitchen. And there was a time where I was feeding into obliviousness during brunch. If you like brunch or hate brunch, this story is equally as divided. It was a time where I had a pretty cool brunch because it was slow and it was the summer and nobody wanted to eat on our hot patio. I was eating my chicken and waffles. I was also drinking some bubbles. I think it was Prosecco. Whether it's Prosecco or champagne, you should never add orange juice or any juice to your bubbles because that's immature. You should grow up. Feel the same way about pho. Don't put fucking hoisin and sriracha in your pho. Just grow up and dip. Add your seasonings later. Anyway, I was eating my chicken and waffles, drinking my Prosecco. My chef comes up to me and wants to have a meeting about the next week of how we can be better, how we can spatchcock a chicken better, or make our sauces more flavorful, order better, and I was listening, but all the while, right behind her, a guy was having a stroke. And that's why I say this story's so divided, because my two other coworkers, we were acting like we were in the back of an elementary school, like 5th grade class, and the teacher was having the worst day of her life, and we just wanted to laugh so hard because of her obliviousness to the situation behind her. We could have been better about telling her, but again, she was so passionate about how we could be better, and that kind of has made me better as a chef in a way. But it was a little bizarre when she's telling us how to be better, and this guy starts to vomit on himself. 5 minutes later, starts to piss himself, and we're still not sure if we should cut her off, tell her what to do. I noticed he was also eating the chicken and waffles, and I got a little scared because we did good quality stuff, but that was happening so slowly. And I start to notice, other guests bringing him water, bringing him ice, trying to make him feel better. I also noticed a doctor who was a regular of our not only dinners but brunches slowly sneak out like this. And this was probably 10 minutes before the ambulance pulled up. When the ambulance pulled up, the stretcher got there. He continued to piss himself and throw up. And that's when the chef was like, "What's going on? We should, let's take a break." And then we left all our laughter out. And then again, I remembered we both had the chicken and waffles. And I was very scared for the rest of the day. Didn't really know if I was going to be in the same situation. And I wasn't, but I didn't want to. Thank you.
It all worked out.
Wow. Okay.
You guys want to go to brunch or what?
Yeah. I've heard all this talk about tip culture being out of control, but I think I misunderstood the problem. Yeah.
How do guys not feel that?
He's telling us it's immature to put juice in a mimosa, but
I
he was
agree.
laughing at that.
Yeah. No, but the guy lived. I asked. The guy is alive. So, nobody's excited for the guy. I love that. You guys didn't even care. Okay. That was an important part he left out. The guy's alive and well, still eats chicken and waffles to this day. Loves orange juice. All right.
We have time for one more?
Yeah, we got the last one.
Okay.
It's the last one of the season. You guys sad or?
Ooh. Wow.
Okay, don't yell at
Pressure
me.
is on for our last storyteller,
I know.
Mac McDowell.
Yeah.
Mac shares a story about a shipwreck he'll never forget.
Ooh, please welcome Mac McDowell. McDowell, yeah.
That's not the first time my name has been mispronounced often. It's reservation for Mr. McDonald? No, McDowell. Anyway, I understand that you all want to hear the story about the mystery of Caroline Island. Well, that took place a long time ago. I remember it well because I was there. You see, I was on my first ship, and that ship was a research ship full of all types of scientists, from oceanographers to ornithologists. And we were steaming from Honolulu, Hawaii, to Papeete, Tahiti. I know, tough duty, but somebody had to do it. We were a little ahead of schedule, and the ornithologist went to the captain and said, "I'd like to stop off at Caroline Island to do a bird population study." And we would have been the first people there in over 20 years, or so we thought. As it turned out, I was going to be the watch officer when we actually made landfall on this island. And early in the morning, I went up to the bridge and got my briefing, and attached to the briefing book was a message from the Coast Guard about a missing sailboat called the Albatross. It was a blue hull, white top, missing sailboat for about 2 weeks. I put that in the back of my mind and continued on with my duties. It wasn't very long after that that the island came into view on the 24-mile scale of the radar. So I called the captain and I said, the island is about 24 miles away, which means we're going to be there in about 1 hour. Well, it was after about an hour, the island did come into view. I had other duties on the bridge, but my lookout shouted, "There's a boat on the beach." And I went, "What?" So I looked through my binoculars, and indeed there was a boat on the beach, and it had a large gaping hole in the side. It had a blue hull and a white top, just like the Albatross. So I called the captain, and he said, "All right, I'll be right up." And he's looking at it, and he's thinking, okay, we are in either a recovery or rescue mission mode. He calls the ship's doctor and tells the ship's doctor to pack a medical bag and body bags. He orders the boats over the side, and they weave their way through the reef to the beach of Caroline Island. Now, they can't get all the way up on the beach, so they stop the boat just as far as they can go, and they jump out in the ankle-deep surf. Well, that was like ringing the dinner bell for the black-tip sharks. They surged out of the surf to try and grab my shipmates' ankles and pull them in for dinner. No one was hurt, but also nobody wanted to go swimming. At the same time, the doctor jumped off the boat and started running towards the wrecked sailboat to see if there was a body there or bones or what. He gets there and he sees it has Alaskan registry. He copies down the registration number, and then he notices it is not the Albatross. The name on the boat is the Petrel. Completely different boat. He sees inside the boat, everything's been stripped. The compass, the electronics gear, even the boom from the mast was stripped. So somebody had survived this wreck, or somebody else had scavenged it. Meantime, the operations officer ran into the interior of this atoll and found an abandoned campsite. So there really was a survivor. There was a collapsed lean-to. There were empty tins of food on one side of the campsite and nicely organized full tins of food on the other side. And in and amongst all this flotsam and jetsam, he spots the sailboat's log. He picks it up. He sits down underneath a coconut palm and begins turning the pages of this weather-beaten log. October 2nd, 2 years before we got there, there's one entry, shipwrecked, exclamation point. Then the following pages are saying things like, survival's a problem, freshwater's a problem. Ultimately, he solved the freshwater problem by stretching the sails of his sailboat out on the beach to catch the daily tropical rainfall into the empty tins of food, and so freshwater was no longer a problem. He was using his ankles as bait to club the sharks as they came in to try and grab his ankles, and he was eating a lot of shark meat. But there's a problem with eating an apex predator in the tropics. You can end up with something called ciguatera poisoning, which makes you go mad. And on one of the following pages, he says, I think I'm going mad. I want to go home. I want to be home by Christmas. Then a page is divided into two sides. Reasons to stay, reasons to go. There's plenty of food, plenty of fresh water here. Ships don't come by here. I'm never going to be rescued. And then he starts drawing a diagram of a raft. And the last entry in that logbook was, the raft is loaded and ready to go. A decision must be made. We assumed that he had put to sea and never to be heard from again. We took the information of the registry back to the ship. We radioed Coast Guard Honolulu, who then radioed Coast Guard Anchorage, where it was registered. And the duty officer there in Anchorage had the unenviable task of picking up the phone and saying, after 2 years, the only thing that's been found is a derelict boat and a weather-beaten log. But who should answer? The captain of the Petrel himself. He had been rescued by the French ship Coriolis, and we were all elated. But aboard ship, everything becomes routine. We had to now change our course back to Tahiti. And as we were steaming south, I go up on the bridge again to take my watch, and there, still clipped to the briefing book, is the message from the Coast Guard about the lost vessel Albatross. Whereabouts were still a mystery.